So let's take a minute to talk about collection systems and specifically how to use them in Open Dental. All systems have lots of different pieces that have to fit together in order to solve the puzzle. And usually there's different people involved with the different pieces in the puzzle. So this involves often more than just a single person at the front desk. So what are we trying to do? First of all, we want to collect the money that the practice is owed, obviously. That's a pretty obvious one. But we also want to make the job just as easy as we possibly can by using systems, and that's what we're talking about. We want systems that go with the Open Dental practice management software. That's what we have, and that's what we're talking about today. We want to make Open Dental do most of the work. Yeah, hey, let's get a little bit more work out of the computers. That's always a good idea. And lastly, but certainly not least, is you want to be fair. We don't want to surprise patients, and you certainly don't want to surprise the doctor with a high accounts receivable. So that's what we're shooting for. All right, how are we going to do that? What's our collection system look like here? Well, first of all, obviously, inform before you perform. You need to explain the treatment to the patient, and that's usually the doctor's job. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. I have other videos that really we kind of roll that into the initial exam. You want to make sure you do accurate insurance estimations. That can be pretty difficult, but we have a lot of tools and systems to work around that. You want to use written payment options. We have payment options that we've developed that we think are the most effective and the most fair with the patients. You want to collect the patient portion either before or during the treatment. So this is a pretty important thing. The days of, hey, bill my insurance and I'll pay the balance are gone. Okay, that's not the way you do it anymore. And you explain this with the payment options. You're going to collect the patient portion ideally before treatment, but at the very least during the treatment. So when the treatment is finished, the patient portion is paid. Then we're going to send statements automatically after we receive the final insurance payment. Now, these will tend to be small statements because we've collected the patient's estimated portion. And so half the time you should bill the patient for a small balance. The other half of the time you should give the patient a credit, which usually means doing a refund check. But, it's really a lot easier to send refund checks than it is to try and chase patients for money. So if you're going to underestimate the insurance portion just a little bit. Anyway, we're going to come back to that. We want to use our key reports to manage our AR. And you don't have to have 100 different reports, but people generally are not very effective using the possible reports because they're kind of discombobulated. There's so many things to look at, and particularly when you have a lot of patients with balances. You can't just keep this in your head. You send them a statement once and then you forget about them. I'm sorry, I don't care how good your memory is or how smart you are, you're not going to be able to remember all those patients that you want to send statements to. So we want to use our report and we want to automate this just as much as possible. And then if necessary, hopefully it's not, we want to be able to follow up with collection letters and so forth. And again, we want to make Open Dental do as much of the work as possible. So what I'm going to talk about in the rest of the video is just number 5 here, sending statements automatically once the last insurance payment has been received. Okay, how do we do this? Well, first of all, we want to set up the defaults in the Open Dental billing. And so if you go to the Manage module down here, okay, it's the last of your modules, and you go up to Billing right here, this window will pop up, and we're going to go through setting up this window in just a second. It may be that you already have patients on this list in here, and you can look at those patients and decide whether you want to print their statements or send their statements, or if you just want to delete those and start off with a clean slate. Most of the time those are wrong anyway, so you might just delete them when you start doing it our way. Okay, so now let's walk into the setup of this section. Here we go. First of all, on the upper left, this date will be inserted automatically, and that's 30 days ago. If you want to do a different date in there, you can, but typically we don't want the same patient to get a statement again for about 30 days. So we're going to print these statements frequently. I'm not going to tell you that yet, how frequently, but frequently. But we don't want that any same patient to get statements again for another 30 days. So this is automatic up here. It defaults to 30 days. Unless there's been some change, which is really unlikely, but I check that box anyway. Okay, here's the other boxes that I think are pretty important. I don't want to send statements to anybody who has insurance pending. Okay, remember we collected the patient portion during treatment, so I don't want to bug them with confusing statements. You're just training patients to ignore their statements. So we're not going to send them any statement, and we tell them this ahead of time. This is part of inform before you perform. And also your payment options. You've told patients they're not going to be getting any statements until you get the final reconciliation from the insurance company. And then you're going to send them a statement. They'll either have a balance or they'll get a refund. Tell them ahead of time. Inform before you perform. So no statements while there's insurance pending, and no statements if you have any procedures that are not billed to insurance. That's one of the reports that you're going to want to look at very frequently. So those two boxes need to be checked. And the other one is down here, ignore walkout statements. So the patient was in the office sometime in the last 30 days and needed a walkout statement for some reason, for one reason because it's got their appointments on there. I don't want that to count against this 30 days. So I'm going to put a check in that box. These are the most important down here, your billing types. You control who gets a statement by your billing types. And for sure, you want to include the standard account. Okay, all new patients go into the standard account billing type by default in Open Dental. And so we never have to change that. Sometimes we've set up a send statement billing type. If the office has a lot of existing accounts out there and we want to control those a little bit better, then we may use that too. If you have a default statement type that you've been using, you can include that in there also. The idea, though, is you don't want to include the bad debts and collection problems and so forth, because you're going to deal with those a different way with collection letters. But this is just the default way to deal with it. These are your patients that have been coming in on a regular basis, that are following your procedures, where they've paid their portion either before or during treatment, and now we're ready to send statements automatically. And then the last thing down here is I like 45 days so that you include a little bit of the previous statement. You know, you don't want to do all dates because then you're going to have a 10-page statement. But usually with 45 days, you can do 30 days if you want. But I wouldn't do any more than that as your default. So I just kind of like 45 days. And then down here, we want to save this as the default. So we've set all this stuff up like this. We don't want to have to go through this each time when we're going to send statements. So we just click on that Save as Default. Now, if you wish to send statements to people that are pending or credit card declined or something like that, you can come back and instead of using this default setup that you have set up in here, just click on that, say we're going to do credit card declined. And go ahead and create your list and run your statements like I'm going to show you, but don't save it as the default. So once this is in here set up this way, you save it as the default. It will come up this way every time, but you can go in special circumstances and send other statements if you wish. Okay, just don't override this. Most of the time that's not necessary, but you can do it. How often are we going to send statements? Oh my God, you're going to make me send statements every day? Yes, this is part of your daily routine. I hope you brush your teeth every day. You're going to send statements every day. But don't panic. Don't worry. We're going to make it really easy. And that's one of the advantages of doing it every day. Okay, we'll go back here. So we had this all set up before. And now we come in tomorrow morning. We just go into Manage, Billing, and go down here to Create List. 3 mouse clicks. Can you handle that? Okay. And poof, up pops this list of patients who are due for statements, who have not received a statement in the last 30 days, who do not have any pending insurance claims, and do not have any procedures not attached to insurance. Now what do? You outsource the statements. Okay, I'm not asking you to do this. This is a miserable job. And because we're going to do it every day, we have to make it easy. And as a matter of fact, there's lots of different statement services out there. We kind of like Claims Connect, which is Dental Exchange, because we like them for e-claims also, so you might as well just have one account. And I think they're 76 cents per claim, which includes the outgoing envelope, the return envelope inside for the patient to send the check back in, the printed statement, and the postage. So it probably works out to be less expensive than the way you're doing it now, certainly when you include the man-person hours involved. And I would rather have the staff person talk to patients rather than to do this. Okay? The more you can talk to patients and be friendly, the better the practice is going to do. This doesn't put anybody in a good mood. And the last thing is, the last reason is because it gets done. When you go to print statements, you go, oh my God, printing statements. Well, I don't think that hygiene patient at 10 o'clock is going to show up. I'll make the hygienist do it. Don't do it that way. Okay, hygienists can do other things. Okay, but this is so easy, so quick. But you've got to use an outside statement service to make this system work. This is faster and easier. It improves your cash flow. Okay, because you're sending out statements every day, and you're sending out statements in a much more timely manner. You got an insurance check for this patient, for Donald Duck, yesterday. That was the final insurance payment. When you post that payment and close that claim, that's all you have to do. And this morning, when you come in and run your statements, Donald Duck will be on the list. He wasn't on the list yesterday because he had an outstanding insurance claim. He's on the list today because you closed that claim yesterday afternoon. It's all automated. It's all easy. The other nice thing is that you do occasionally get questions from patients, and all those phone calls don't come in on the 2nd of the month because you sent the statements out on the 1st. Okay, they're spread out during the month too. So your cash flow is spread out, your cash flow is more timely, and the phone calls don't inundate you with a zillion calls in one day. Okay, that's it. Hopefully that was helpful. Set that up. Now again, it's part of the bigger collection system. All those other things are involved. And look at our other videos for those other steps in the system. But let Open Dental do more of this work for you.